Cool. Trying to figure this out. Hang on, bear with me. I am so technologically challenged. It's not even bad. Okay, now I'm gonna share this. There we go. Okay, I see I have a viewer, so there might be a delay in my stream, so just hang tight. I'm trying to get that figured out. And I gotta share this link into the group because my old stream messed up. So, just wait. Patience. Technically not supposed to start until 12. I'm tired. Let's see. Working? Yes. Awesome. Okay. So, I'm waiting to get more than one person watching. Okay. Hope everybody can hear me. Alright, so there's this little comment box on the side. If you have a YouTube account, you can log in and talk to me and stuff. So, okay, yeah, you can. Alright, so there's 2 people. I'm waiting on more people before I start. I should probably put in my headphones. I can barely hear anything. So I can read. Crap. So there's 2 people. 3 people. I'm waiting. I am going to wait for a few more people. Okay, so I don't have to repeat myself a billion times. Okay. If you have any questions, you can log into your YouTube account and ask me something on the side here of my stream. This is messing me up. Or you can comment on my post. I post it and talk about fitness. I'm not sure which one will be easier for you. So whatever you prefer, you can use. We have 4 people, so I guess I can start talking about myself. I hope everybody can hear me. Two people. Okay, guys, I'm losing you. I see one person. I'm not gonna start until I have a couple more, but I think I got everything figured out. Like I said, you can either log into YouTube and comment on the stream, or you can comment on Facebook on my link. I'll be checking both, attempting to multitask, if you will. Yeah, I got 3 people. Okay, I'm gonna wait for a couple more maybe. But for those who are just, I got more. For those who are just joining me, you can log into YouTube and comment on the box next to my video. It says like say something, and you can ask me questions. Or you can comment on my post if you have any questions on Facebook. Now Dan is saying that he can't figure out where to comment on YouTube. Okay, so you can just comment on my thread on Facebook that I just started with the new link. That would be awesome. Okay. Well, it says I have 4 viewers, so I'll just go ahead and start talking about myself. I want to do an introduction so you guys don't think I'm a crook or anything. My name's Hannah. A lot of you know who I am. I've been a clairvoyant since I was 4, 5 years old. It started when I started seeing things that nobody else would see, like people, and hearing voices. It was a really scary thing, but I got used to it. It made my childhood really rough, actually. I would hear like just weird random noises like wind chimes and bells, and just seeing random people I didn't know, standing over my bed, and having these weird thoughts that would enter my head. It was really scary as a kid, and as an adult, it's impacted me a lot in a way, more so the way I grew up. I grew up in a very strict Catholic family that wasn't really accepted thing to have. They thought I was mentally unstable or ill. So it made my childhood really difficult. But that's enough about me. I'll start talking about some of the stuff I said I was going to talk about. One of the big topics that's very misinterpreted in the sense of earthly and spiritually is the topic of suicide. And it's a very difficult thing to discuss. Hang on, I have too many people calling me. Turn the TV off. Okay, I don't have a TV on, but I am going to put on headphones and see if that helps. Alright, can you hear me better? There we go. I don't hear any more background noise, I don't think. Okay, cool. Alright, so I'm gonna start over because I have like a bunch new viewers on my video. So, when I was a kid, that's when I figured out that I was different. At 4 to 5 years old, I was seeing people that weren't supposed to be there, and I was hearing voices that weren't supposed to be there. And I would hear, random noises throughout the day, like wind chimes that weren't there, bells. It was a very difficult time for me when I was a kid. It made my family life really hard because I was growing up in a Catholic household, and they were very strict about not that kind of stuff. That stuff was kind of taboo, and they tried to do everything they could to try to fix me, and nothing really ever worked. I've had multiple different creepy experiences through the past that validated my abilities, such as precognition. I've had visions of stuff that happened the very next day, and I was actually able to help the police, which is really weird but cool at the same time. But I'll get back to that later. I would like to first talk about the difficult topic of suicide. And I think there's a very strong misconception between the spiritual and earthbound world of, how do I say this? The topic, okay, suicide. It's something that people talk about, but they don't really understand, in a sense. Try to figure out how to explain it to you guys. Okay, so obviously, here on Earth, suicide is a very tragic thing for families, friends to go through, and seeing, your best friend or your son or your daughter or your mom like that is a terrifying thing. And personally, I know. But on the spiritual sense, it's very similar to the one here on Earth. And it's very, very complicated to understand. So a lot of people have the conception that when somebody kills themselves, it is the worst sin that anybody could ever commit, and they go to eternal hell. I'd like to tell you that's not true. Okay. When somebody does that, they are not stuck in like a limbo state, and they are not in like purgatory in a sense, and they're not lost. When somebody does that to themselves, they are stuck in a sense of healing, temporary healing for 2 to 3. What is dancing? Yeah, the background noise should be done, by the way. I don't have any other background noise. I put in the headphones and I think it fixed it. When somebody tragically ends their life, they can spend anywhere from 2 to 3 months, years. There's not really a time lapse where somebody's in healing after they take their lives. But they're not damned to hell, and they're not stuck in limbo, and they're not lost. They are kind of, when you hear about the stories when people pass over and are looking for the light, that's kind of the thing that they're looking for. God is the most forgiving person there is, and he does not damn souls that kill themselves to hell. I'm trying to look for a way to easily explain this to you guys, and it's really difficult. Let's see here. Okay. Can everybody hear me? Okay, somebody just said they couldn't hear me on the message, so. Alright, we're good? Alright. Oh my god, I hate technology. Alright, well, okay, we have more people joining us, so let me recap because I got a brain fart. We're talking about the topic of suicide spiritually. And it's a very complicated thing I have yet to be able to fully understand and explain to somebody who doesn't experience what I experience. And I think a better way for me to try to explain it to you guys is giving you an example. Thanks for the comment. I'm a little nervous, so hang with me. One example would be one of my close family friends that I had when I was in middle school. His name was Zach, and he lost his dad tragically when he was about my age, a little younger than me. And it really scarred him because he's seen it happen. And Zach seemed to be a very happy young man, and the time his incident happened, he had a lot going for him. He was almost a doctor. Well, he was about to graduate college and go on to doctorate school, and he had a lot of friends. He was surrounded by love and family, and he told one of my friends that he was going to go lie down and take a nap. And it was a very long time later, and one of my friends went to go check on him, and he killed himself. Now, Zach has came through me a few times, and he tells me that he regrets his decision, that what he did to himself. And the way I am explained by the souls that contact me is, it's kind of a dark thing that they go through. Like I said, they're not condemned to hell, and I don't believe that any soul is condemned to hell unless they commit, these atrocious crimes or they're bad people, and they're not stuck in a limbo. Overall, they're just trying to find, where they belong. But I can tell you, I have never met one soul or one person that's came across me that has not regretted their decision. And if they could do it again, they would do things much differently. And another point that I think I should discuss with you, that if the other side thinks is very important, is looking at minor details when somebody is depressed. Because half of the time, suicide victims do show signs of that they're going to do something that might hurt others. They show signs of isolation and depression, and usually these signs are ignored by their family. Just, they're going through a stage, or it'll get better. You can't think like that if you're living with somebody with depression or who has thought about suicide in the past. You need to definitely pay attention to everything that person is doing if you're questioning their mental state of mind. We've got a few more viewers. Okay, I'm going to start over my introduction and recap a little bit, if that's okay. Alright, so those who are just tuning in, I'm Hannah. I'm a clairvoyant. This is my first time doing a live feed about my abilities, so it's kind of embarrassing, but stick with me. I'm trying to get everything figured out and trying to deal with technology as it comes to me. But I have been a clairvoyant since I was 4 or 5 years old. It all started when I was seeing things that weren't supposed to be there. And I've been talking about the topic of depression and suicidal and spiritual and earthbound wise. Hang on, somebody. Okay, Dan. Alright. Alright. So, like I said, we were talking about the topic of suicide and how it affects those on Earth and those who committed suicide. It's a very strange topic to talk about, especially if you don't understand the whole spiritual concept of our realms and, what's actually there, what you can't see. But, like I said, before most of you joined in, I have not met one suicide soul that's came to me that has not regretted their decision. And if you are living with somebody who you may feel may have suicidal tendencies, definitely do not ignore it and don't think it's a sign, because like I said, most of the people who come to me say that they were ignored. I did meet one young lady randomly a few weeks ago, and I won't use her real name. I won't even use a name because out of respect for her. But she was about 16 years old, and she committed suicide. It's a very tragic thing, for everybody involved. And this young woman said that she did it because she was curious. Okay, so, this is a very young girl that did this, and she comes to me and she wants help, and she's like, I don't know why I did it. I can't believe I did it. I was just playing around. I was seeing what it felt like. So not all suicides happen out of the same reason. I like to group suicides in 3 different groups, as weird as that sounds. So I have came across suicide victims that are, self-harm, and accidental suicides, which means people commit suicides to make it look like an accident, if that makes sense, and medical suicide. Thanks, guys, for the nice comment. Like I said, it's very complicated for me to explain to somebody who doesn't experience what I experience and what these people tell me, but it's a very dark thing, especially knowing that their families and friends knew that they were in not a solid mental state, and they completely ignored it. But there was a few that I've came across that their families did reach out and get them all the help they could. They just didn't feel like they belonged here anymore, but there's no reason to ever do that to anyone around you and to yourself. And people seem to have the concept that it's the easy way out. Spiritually, I'm going to get really voodoo here. On the other plane, when you kill yourself, it doesn't get easier at all. If you guys believe in karma, that's one thing that happens to a spirit whenever they kill themselves and cross the other side. Because at that point, the only victim is the family. And like I said, there's no condemning to hell. If one of your loved ones has committed suicide, they're not in hell. They could be in a state of spiritual healing for a course of 2 to 3 days to years. And not all the time will they contact you, but everybody experiences somebody trying to contact them. You don't have to be a clairvoyant or a medium to try to tune in with your family, because if you lost a loved one tragically, they will try to come through and communicate with you if you're open-minded enough. Let's see, I had one question. How do you tie in mental illness with your abilities? Well, that's a good question, actually. Am I mentally ill? Maybe. No, I have ADHD, but that's the only real thing that I ever struggle with. Now, if I, for instance, couldn't verify the things that I was experiencing, maybe I would consider my mental state. But like I said earlier, I've had 2 incidents where I was able to help the police find people. Short and sweet, I have precognition too, which is awfully mistaken with premonitions. Precognition is when you're sleeping and you have visions, and they're not dreams, they're very, very vivid. And I had one where I was in the person of somebody else. So I was me, but I wasn't me, if that makes sense. And I was running in our neighborhood, and this man pops out around the car and grabs this girl. It was technically me, but wasn't me. But I was able to explain what this guy looked like, and I was able to remember his license plate number out of my dream. Weird. And I was watching the news the next day, and I saw that there was an attempted abduction in my old town where this happened, and I contacted the police department, and they actually listened to me and took my statement, and they found the guy because I gave them the proper license plate. Weird, I know. But if like stuff like that didn't happen, I would probably question my mental instability. But everybody's different. You know, everybody has their quirks. I wouldn't ever consider my ability to be mentally unstable. So, do I have any other questions? There was one earlier about a girl that said that she experiences what I experience, and it's not accepted in her family. Let's see. Well, I came across a comment on my main post earlier about this girl who's also a sensitive, and she said she grew up in a Christian household, and people thought she was crazy, and how she would deal with that. So let's just say it's not a fun ride growing up in a very strict Christian household. I would know, but eventually, after I kept ignoring my mom with my issues I've been having and the stuff I experienced, she actually stopped trying to get me help and started listening. And I've actually been able to help my family a lot with my abilities too. So it's not so much thing. Thanks, Dan. You rock. Okay. It's not so much of aiming for acceptance, because not everybody's going to accept that you're different than them, and they might view you as demented or schizophrenic. You just got to do your own thing, because you can't always worry about what other people think, especially your family. When I was like 12 or 13, I went through a very, very bad stage because my family made me feel stupid, because I would constantly wake up in the middle of the night, like screaming and asking my mom for help because these people wouldn't leave me alone. So I kind of understand what you're going through right now with your family not accepting the way you are, but I promise you it'll get better. And it might get worse before it get better, but it'll get better. Let's see, I had another question. Let's see, the weirdest thing I've ever experienced. That's a good question. Let's see. Well, there's a couple. I'd say one of my weirdest ones was one of my precognition dreams when, this was like a month ago, I believe. I had this dream where I was in this very dark room, and I watched this guy come through the window and try to abduct this small girl. And again, I was able to remember what the whole scenario looked like, and I have a really bad memory, so it's really crazy. But I was actually witnessing something that actually happened, if that makes sense. So the same night, I was witnessing this guy trying to abduct this girl, and it was on the news the next morning when I woke up, and I was able to call the police and talk to the police and see if they would listen to me. They didn't really take me seriously, but they took my information anyways. But what other questions? I already answered that question, but I will. Stop watching because something she said. Rick, I am sorry that hit close to home, but like I said, I'm just saying what they tell me. I only give my opinions and stuff basically on what they told me. I would never say anything that would purposefully hurt you or make you sad. But if Rick wants to message me, I might be able to help him out a little bit. Does anything trigger a clairvoyant episode? Actually, yeah. Being in certain places can trigger me. So, like, if I'm really quiet, like if I'm in my room, like right now, and the lights are off and everything, actually, that's whenever they're most active. That's whenever they're most trying to get in my head and try to get help. It's when my mind's real busy, is when they don't really bother me, because I kind of tune them out. But it's whenever it's really quiet. And the funny thing is, cemeteries are like the most non-active places for that stuff, and it's the weirdest thing. Like, I can go into a cemetery and maybe pick up on like 2 or 3 people, but then I come in my room, which is newly developed like within the last 10 years, and they're like eating my brain. They don't leave me alone. So, and I actually have sleep issues because of it. It's really annoying. Let's see. Do I have any other questions? Somebody needs to ask me more questions. Okay, so how do I learn to block it out? Well, that's just something that I kind of learned over time. So, when I first started really like embracing my abilities a couple years ago, that was one of my biggest issues. I'm like, man, I want to help these people, but then they're like constantly crowding me like I'm a piece of gold or something. They want me, they want my help. There's times where I can just completely block them out for like 2 or 3 weeks at a time if I want to, but that's because I keep myself busy all the time. I find myself, if I keep myself super busy doing stuff, or if I'm stressed out like with school or college or exams, they leave me alone, and I can kind of like block them out. But if I'm like not doing anything like now, they give me headaches, they hurt my head, and it's harder to stay focused and stuff, because they're always trying to get my help, and they put images in my head, and it makes it hard to think and keep things straight. So that's that one. I had somebody message me. Okay. I will cover that one in a second. Somebody said, what's the difference between ghosts and spirits? I don't personally believe in ghosts. I believe in souls, and like spiritual beings that come to me, but I think some have more energy than others, and they're able to show themselves to people. But for ghosts, I don't really like that term. I don't really like to, I don't know, I think ghosts is just so like sci-fi sounding, and like ghost hunters and stuff. Nah, I don't believe in ghosts, and it being more spirits and energies and souls. Who can you choose to communicate? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes there's really annoying people that come through, and I usually try to like push those off for later. I usually choose to help people who seem to have been pestering me the longest. I also don't like to associate myself with like the darker energies. For instance, if I go into like a house that somebody wants me to come look at, and I feel there's something really dark there that's not a spirit, I won't do it. I'm not specialty in like poltergeist or anything, but yeah, I can choose who I want to communicate with. I usually try to help the young first over the old, as bad as that sounds. But we all, like, if you talk to any clairvoyant, we're all kind of different. So some choose to help all, but my mind doesn't allow me to help everybody. Can anyone become a clairvoyant, or do you think certain people are just made that way? I think that everybody has something they can tap into, because I've seen a lot of people do it. Everybody has intuition. So, like, you're walking down the road, you see a guy, he's skeptical, and you're like, oh, I don't think I should walk past that guy. That's your intuition. So I think everybody has intuition, some stronger than others. But depending on what you do to become clairvoyant is one thing, because there's pagans and Wiccans that try to connect with dead people in very, very wrong ways. There's people who play with Ouija boards and are stupid, and they are able to like see people and demons, I guess. I think clairvoyance is mainly a genetic thing. I know it skips a generation usually. So my great grandma was a very empathic person, and my grandma was too. My mom was not, but apparently I'm like the most active one in our family that can actually see people and stuff like that. So I do believe it's genetic. But can anybody do it? I think it takes a special person to be able to do it. Not saying I'm special or anything, but it just, you have to be a chosen one to be able to handle it. Because unfortunately, when people do what I do, a lot of people try to hurt themselves or end up in psychiatric wards if they're not careful enough. Does it take some kind of near-death experience? I know that's happened to some people. I've seen a few different articles and stuff where, these young kids, die and come back to life, and they're able to, communicate with the other side. I don't think it takes a near-death experience to be able to do. And I know a lot of people who have spiritual awakenings later on in their life, especially around like 40 and 50 years old, which is really strange. But I do know children and the very young are very capable of experiencing, the stuff we experience. But usually they grow out of it because they're so stimulated to the busy environment around them, and they're too busy to think about other things other than talking to dead people. Let's see. Can you grow your intuitive? Can you grow it? Maybe, if you really want to. You can do meditation. I don't really like meditation, but I'll do it. I'll listen to, what are they called? Delta waves? They seem to more help me, like, control my anxiety if it's causing me anxiety. But for developing it, I don't think you should go down that route unless you work with a spiritual guider, which they're like all over the place if you Google them in your area. One of them actually helped me when I was like 19 or so. She helped me develop my abilities. I think some people have. Actually, that is a very good thing. I was just talking about that with my mom earlier. I do think that there is a lot of people who are considered mentally ill, and they're different. They have, the sixth sense, especially schizophrenic people, which I almost got diagnosed with today by the hospital. But I do believe that is one of the most overly diagnosed cases for people who are clairvoyant like I am. And unfortunately, not all families are understanding of their children's abilities. And that's almost the easy way out, to diagnose them with that, medicate them up, and be done with it. But there's a lot of people that I've talked to on my development that actually were diagnosed as a kid being schizophrenic. Unfortunately. And another thing I'd like to talk about is anxiety. Anxiety is actually a really big sign of having clairvoyance. Just a food for thought if anybody else suffers with anxiety. How did I do after the hospital today? Yeah, that was awful. I was miserable this morning. So I went to the hospital, and I hate the hospital I went to. I don't know why I went to that hospital, but It shook me up a lot. They didn't really care that I was having headaches or anything like that, which are gone now, by the way. Um, but after they tried diagnosing me with mental instability and stuff, I'm a little shook up still. I'm pretty sad, but we're gonna figure it out. We're not done yet. They said that I had abnormal brain activity, which is really strange, because that's never happened before. But yeah, I'm doing better. I'm still weird, like I'm still twitchy. Like my leg's twitching right now, and my arm and my finger. But I'll make do until I can go to another hospital. Um, at my girlfriend's house, where it feels very uncomfortable. It's okay, so uncomfortable. Check my phone battery real quick. Hang on, guys. I'm checking my phone battery because I don't want it to die. Okay, good thing I checked my phone battery because it almost died. All right. So for Rick's question, you need to go with your intuition on that one, especially if you feel like it's a dark entity, because normal spirits are not dark like that. Let's see, I'm trying to read the rest of it. Good way. I would definitely keep a notebook, like in the house, and write down anything you experience, and especially like door shutting and weird things happening, like things maybe moved around. Definitely write it down in a journal over the course of like a month before you take any action to do anything. And also, you can set objects. Hang on, let me explain this better. So, if you think it's a dark or entity, you can take like hollow objects. This sounds really weird. You can take hollow objects and set them in your child's room, on like a dresser or a table or anything like that. And just kind of watch those objects. And if they move any or if they go missing, then you're dealing with something. That's what I usually do with clients' houses and stuff that I go into and look. Another thing that I would stay away from doing for the next month is putting up crosses or trying to bless the house yourself, because that can definitely piss off something bad. And it sounds like that's not a spirit. I've never been in a house where a spirit like acts poorly like that. Usually anything like that is considered a type of poltergeist, but I wouldn't go as far as a demon. And demons are pretty bad juju that I don't even like getting into because they're petrifying, but it definitely sounds like you got a poltergeist, especially if it's fooling around in your house. Let's see. What's the difference between a poltergeist and a spirit and a demon? Alright, this is like my least favorite topic to talk about. Okay, a spirit is just basically a ball of energy that leaves somebody when they die. Their soul, everything we're made out of, it's there. Not good, bad, anything like that. It's just there. A poltergeist, it's not even a spirit. It's not living. It was never a person. It wasn't anything. It's just kind of created from, I don't really like to say hell because I don't really know if that's a real place or not, but a dark place. It comes from a dark place, and they're kind of like the tricksters. That's what you want to call it. They like to play games, and they like to scare people. That's the poltergeist. Now, yeah, they can cause harm to somebody if they wanted to. I've never experienced one causing harm to anybody, but now demons are a whole different story. Demons are very like, I've been in one house where there was a demon, and I literally stepped on the porch of the house, and I turned around and left because I wasn't going to deal with it, because that's not what I do. They make you feel very, very uncomfortable. Me, at least. They make me tremor. And one actually caused me to have a seizure when I was a little younger. weird. They can possess people, which is a big difference. They can cause bodily harm to somebody, and they can destroy families. And that's another thing. Demons don't have to be like physically active in your house. They can be like how do I call it? They can like live in the walls and cause turmoil to families. They can cause divorces, illness, stuff like that. But yeah, I won't get too much into demons unless somebody wants me to. But that's the difference between all of them. Do animals have spirits? Well, yeah, I think anything living has a spirit. I mean, I've never really came across an animal like on its by itself, but I have came across people that have came to me for help, and they have like their dog with them or something like that. But I've never came across one by itself. So I think maybe like animal spirits are tied to people spirits. I've never really discussed that before. That's a good question. Let's see what else. What else is somebody else asked me? How long have I been doing this? I don't really like to explain it as a trade that I do. I've been doing this since I was like 4 years old, but I've recently just started embracing it in the last 2 years or so. More recently than ever, now that I'm getting my certification and stuff. My father died 10 years ago. He was only visiting me twice in my dreams. In your estimation, what causes the lost or loved ones to visit us? Okay, that's a good question. The reason why people visit occasionally is out of the sake of you. Because I can tell you, I've never personally seen the place they go to, but I've heard that, it's unexplainable, it's beautiful, and there's no pain, death, sickness, anything like that. So I think that they come and see us out of respect, and they want to give us peace. And that's their way of letting us know that they're okay, in a way. So yeah, I guess it is like a desperation on our end, in fact, but sometimes, they might just want to come and visit you because they might miss you. Or something they can actually sense and do about in some cases. Usually, I've noticed a trend, like people, their loved ones will come to them if they kind of push the thought of them in the back of their mind. So if they're starting to forget, not fully forget, but kind of forget about, their loved one that died, they'll make a presence. So you think about them more, I've noticed. At least the arrogant ones I've came across. There's some people that never experience anything from their loved ones, which is really strange, unless I come through for them. I'm not sure why, but they just can't, it seems. Or maybe the person is too caught up in their own lives to really pay attention to the person trying to come through. And I'm sorry that your father died 10 years ago. That's awful. I've met many people who are clairvoyant, believe strongly, and have had interactions with them. And fairies? Like fairies? I have never came across a fairy. But I think I've heard of people coming across them, but the only person I've ever heard of coming across the fairy were more like pagans and Wiccans, which I don't really talk to them much, but that's the only person I ever talked to that says they experience. I've experienced butterflies, which is really strange. I've noticed that if you see a white butterfly, I think that's a sign of like an angel or one of your loved ones visiting you. So definitely keep that in mind next time you see one of those little white butterflies. But fairies, I've never seen a fairy. I'd probably be kind of scared if I saw a fairy, to be honest with you. Those things scare me. Let's see. Other questions. Have I ever had a friend die and experience seeing them? Oh yeah, I had a really good friend of mine die in my sophomore year of high school, and long story short, he wouldn't leave me alone for like 2 years, and no matter what I did to try to help him, he wouldn't move on. It was a very complicated thing, but it was really painful too because I was always reminded of his passing. But even though I can talk to him and see him, kind of, it actually made it pretty hard because I couldn't like cope and deal with it until after he was moved on, if that makes sense. And I also noticed that he didn't move on until his mom passed away too. So it's very sad. It's a very sad story, but yeah, I have had a friend that died, and him. Oh, I literally saw a white butterfly yesterday in my back car. My cat chased it a bit, but did not attack it, which was strange. Yeah, I think like those little white butterflies are so delicate, and you barely ever see them around here at least. And whenever I see one, that definitely means that it's either your guardian angel or one of your family members or friends is saying hello. But yeah, that's pretty amazing. I seen one today, but I seen it very faintly and then it disappeared, which was weird. What about the yellow butterflies? The yellow butterflies, I don't know. I rarely see yellow butterflies, but I would think maybe the same concept, but I only think of like the really little ones. Let's see. Are you a witch? No, I'm not a witch. I'm a Christian. I'm a non-church going Christian, if that makes sense. I don't practice any witchcraft. I don't use any tools. No. No thank you. That stuff's bad. What? Do I practice tarot cards? No. Somebody bought me a deck of tarot cards once and I threw it away. Now I'm not about that stuff. That stuff's bad. I don't like having that stuff in my house. No, I don't do anything like that. I got another question. Have you ever used an Ouija board? No, I've never used an Ouija board. Not my style. Why haven't I used an Ouija board? Why haven't I used an Ouija board? Okay, let me tell you about Ouija boards. You don't use them. And if you have one in your house, you need to get rid of it because they're very, very bad things. Very, very bad things can come out of those things. And they're not a toy, which you can buy them at Toys R Us, which I don't know. I don't know. That's America for you. I don't understand. Well, I got a lot of viewers. Thank you guys. I didn't think this would turn out like it did. Is anybody bothering you right now? Which one do you want to know about? There is a man named David that's bothering me. There's a woman named Patricia, and then there's a Kelly, a Daryl. That's all I can pick up right now. But yes, they're bothering me. I always have people bothering me, physically and mentally. No. I probably will. Will I help them? No, I'm not going to help them right now. I'm talking to you guys. Somebody ask me another question. I'm getting some like really weird questions. Have I ever experienced a demon? Okay, we're back on this topic. The only time I ever experienced a demon is whenever I was going to this house and doing like this cleansing thing. And I set one foot on the porch. and I left because it made me feel very uncomfortable. And the things with demons is they know, like, your biggest fear, and they'll, like, manipulate that. Like, mine are spiders, and it felt like spiders were crawling all over my skin and in my clothes. And I was out of there. I said I couldn't help the lady. That's the only time I ever dealt with a demon. Mirrors? Okay, I got a question about mirrors. Is it true that mirrors are portals? I don't really know about portals. I do know, like, if you have two mirrors that are across from each other in a room, that could maybe act as a portal, but I don't know. I'm not a ghost, so I can't really answer that. Or spirit. Do you believe in heaven? I just said I'm a Christian. Yes. Yes, I do believe in heaven. Now, hell? Oh, that's a topic for another day. I don't really believe in hell, but I do believe in a heaven and a God. In case anybody ever asks again. I know it's getting late, guys. I'll wrap up here in a little bit. Comment on my post. Are there any movies that you've seen that have seemed authentic in their representation of spirits and whatnot? Actually, that's a good question. The weirdest movie you would never think is probably would have to do with the poltergeist thing I was talking about and Paranormal Activity. Now, not like the really extreme parts, but like the very mild parts where like things are getting fallen off the walls and stuff on cameras. I think that's a pretty accurate representation of what a poltergeist can do if you're ever curious. But for spirits and whatnot, I've yet to see something that actually accurately depicts a spirit. Now, they all depict them in like scary movies and stuff. I don't even watch like the Ghost Hunters or anything. I think that's all staged. No, I've yet to see something that's representation of something accurate of a spirit. Now, demons and poltergeists, yeah. But as for fully accurate, no, there's not going to be anything fully accurate unless there's somebody that's obviously working on the set that knows what they're talking about. But like I said, like what I do is really blown out of proportion. No, not a dead person doesn't come up to me and be like, "Hey man, help me." It doesn't work like that. They're like, we talk without talking, if that makes sense. So, you like this kind of stuff. Yeah, a lot of people do. That's why I don't really like to talk about it too much, because, especially with my family, it'll make up like the whole Thanksgiving dinner conversation is how I can talk to dead people. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty interesting at times, especially when I get to talk to other experienced people that are way older than me. Have I ever talked to that Teresa lady? Oh, that like whatever her name is, the lady, Long Island medium. I've sent her an email like twice and she never replied to me. So no, I've never talked to her. I don't like her. I think her attitude's kind of weird too. So, but then again, she's been doing it a lot longer than me. She might be comfortable with it. But I would never be able to go on it like a TV show and do what I do. That would be petrifying. How do I know that? How do I know the difference between imagination and seeing dead people? Okay, well, imagination and communicating with the dead is like two different ball games, and it's something you would only know if you were in my shoes. Like, imagination is me riding a unicorn into battle or something. Whenever I start seeing like names and images and like random stuff in random places, I know that that's real. I used to think it was my imagination until I started actually speaking about it and helping people. How long have I been helping people? I like low-key help people. Like, you have to be like a friend of the family for me to help people usually. But now I'm trying to get more active in my study and hopefully expand further and broaden my thing. But I don't charge people. I don't charge people to help them, which is the difference between me and a lot of people. It's so weird that she said that my dad's. I see. But play with it. Yeah, cats are really weird. Trying to check my phone battery. Hang on. Okay, it's good. Cats actually are like more susceptible to seeing that stuff than any other animal. Like if you see your cat like hell bent looking at a random spot in the ceiling, you best bet he's looking at something. Just kidding. But usually, yeah, they can see things more at a higher definition than other animals can. But yeah, Cecil, you gotta pay attention. You know, he's always probably trying to contact you, especially if you guys were really close. It helps if you sit in your house, just quiet, and just close your eyes and, you know, hear some stuff. You know, you're falling asleep, you might experience something. Definitely don't ignore that. That could be your father. My daughter is 4 years old, and she sometimes is in the middle of the night, starts a whole conversation with a little boy in the corner of her room, as she calls it. Is that a dangerous thing, or can I let it go? That actually sounds pretty fucking petrifying, honestly, but then again, I'm not a kid. I don't understand. I would definitely write that in a journal. Your journal I told you to get and keep in your house. And watch it over the next couple weeks. Definitely watch for it happening more, because if the little boy appears more, he's building off energy from the house, and that means he's not a little boy. It means he's a poltergeist, and poltergeist can take form of spirits. And ask your daughter what the little boy says to her, because topics can have a lot to do with determining if something is good or bad. But yeah, kids are weird. Kids are more open-minded. They can experience stuff like that easier than us adults can. Granted, I've seen somebody standing in the corner of my room before, and I about pissed my pants. But yeah, that's freaky. That's something out of a scary movie, Rick. I would definitely be writing that down. But don't freak out about it, because that's more common than what you think. I would just write it down and kind of take notes of the next month or so and see if you notice an increase in his appearance. But if it stays the same, he's probably just lost and confused. But I could probably help you more if you send me a message. There's ways you can kind of cleanse your house. I won't get into detail because it's kind of controversial. Yeah, a lot of parents write that stuff off as imagination, and quite frankly, it's not mostly. Especially if they're very detailed about their description of their friends that visit them at night. But yeah, I know when I was a little girl at that age, I'd see somebody in my room, I'd freaking cry. I'd pee my pants. But good for your daughter, she's brave. Talking to the ghosty boy. But yeah, like I said, just monitor, write down every little detail she says, because kids are unbiased when it comes to giving details. And if you notice the topics of their conversations going in a very dark way, definitely act on it.
but there's certain ways you can act on getting rid of that stuff. And I can tell you that incorporating usually crosses and holy water are not a good way to go, because 90% of the time it pisses off the spirit or whatever it's in there, or you can think it's a lost soul and it end up being something demonic or something, and it can make it really, really bad. Do I have any crosses in my room? Yeah, there's one right there. Let's see, I have Holy Mary, and I have a cross up there on my room. Yeah, I have crosses in my room. There's not anything bad in my house, I don't think. Have I ever seen full body apparition? Yeah, I see them. I see them like maybe 2 out of 5 times if somebody's trying to communicate with me, and usually when I see them it freaks me the hell out. And usually I'm in like a public place, or like at home alone, of course, when they decide to show themselves to me. I seen one last week, and it freaked me out. I could see it in my like the reflection. It was night out, and we had our lights on, and I was looking in the window, and like you can see like the inside reflection of the house because of the lights. And I seen somebody in a shadow off of our window. Seen him. He was like standing right in front of our coffee table. It freaked me the hell out. Have I ever performed a cleansing? Yeah, I've cleansed a house before. I've gone to houses before. I've gone to historical towns and ghost hunted for fun. Yeah, I mean, I like to have fun with it. I mean, if I was living with it every day, I would want to have fun. Do you watch Ghost Hunters? No, I don't watch Ghost Hunters. I think that's so blown up out of proportion. Where do I live? Well, that's kind of personal, but I live in Ohio. I won't say exactly where in Ohio, but I live in Ohio. What did you say? I feel and see things, so I can understand where my kid is coming from. So she said she talks to him from time to time. I tend to believe her. Yeah, she's 4 years old. I would definitely listen to her. Maybe if she was like 6 or 7, had that imagination going crazy. Skeptical, but 4-year-olds don't really make up tall tales like the random kid in their house. But yeah, you feel, see things. So I would definitely listen to your intuition on that one, especially if it comes to your kid. So that's important. I don't really talk about hell too much because I don't really know if there's a thing. But I do know there's bad souls that go to a place. I've never really talked to the bad ones before. I try not to, at least, because it makes me feel weird. What do you know about empaths? I was explaining something that have happened to me, and my friend told me that maybe when empathics pick up on people's energies, like they can see auras and stuff, like a ring of color around somebody. Empath is usually confused with another word like intuition. So are you like getting vibes off of people? Like, do you pick up on vibes, or do you have like strange feelings about something? Because they're both different. Empathic is picking up on somebody's energies, and intuition is having a hunch. Am I empathic? No, I'm not empathic. I can't see people's energies or feel. Well, some people I can feel energies, I guess. Like if it's like a sketchy dude, wearing like Crocs or something, I might get some weird vibes. But other than that, no, I don't pick up on people's energies too much. If I thought about it hard enough, I probably could. I think a lot of people could do that, though. But intuition is a whole different ballgame, because not a lot of people have intuition. Or they do, but they don't pay attention to it. What's intuition? Perfect example, you're driving down the road. You want to take the shortcut home because it's like 5 minutes shorter, but something is telling you to take the long way home, so you choose to take the long way home. Good idea, because like 5 minutes later there's a wreck on the short way home. That's intuition. Yeah, it also implies if something's probably watching you. Yeah, I guess that can imply. I don't know how to answer that one, so I'm probably not going to answer. Oh, I have all kinds of comments on my YouTube. I'm sorry. I never said. Okay, Jill, London, I'm sorry. No, I know a lot of pagans don't use boards and stuff. I know pagans and Wiccans. It doesn't and Jill, for another one of your questions, I'm just now seeing on YouTube, I'm sorry. Like I've said also that you can experience a spiritual awakening later in life. And Nancy asked me if I've had an out-of-body experience. Yeah, I have in my precognitive state in my dream, which is really strange. That's how I found out. That was one of my first precognition issues when I had an out-of-body experience. That was, yeah. I won't explain that one, but yeah, I did for the sake of the family. What are you describing about your dreams and you being there and seeing what's happening for real? Sound like an astral trip, which means you were really there and it happened. It's hard to explain to someone, Nancy, that doesn't understand what I experienced. But yeah, I guess it is like a astral trip. Except for, I don't mean for it to happen. It just kind of happens. And those are more complicated. Because they don't give me like details or like when this is happening, where this is happening. So I kind of have to just watch the news and see if it happens, unfortunately. Joseph, I'm just now seeing these. I am doing both now. Empaths are considered mentally unstable because we take on everyone's emotions very hard. Empaths are not considered mentally unstable. No. No. I guess if empaths are considered mentally unstable, then I'm considered mentally unstable. No, I don't understand that. But yeah, anxiety is a big issue as well. Do you ever help spirits cross over? Yes, I have. Like tomorrow, for instance, I plan on going to the cemetery because one of my people are telling me to go there, and I'm gonna check out and see if this guy's legit. Yeah. Taylor felt like things have happened before they've happened. It's kind of like precognition. You have precognition. That's what you have. That's what I have too. Except for precognition's really difficult because you don't know really much details until after you read the news or see what's happening. That's my only downfall with my precognition. Jennifer likes that stuff, yeah. Well, I plan on doing more, so you can tune in next time whenever you have more data and watch. Okay, I'm just making sure my phone's still good. Okay. Daughter says how she behaved at school. She was nice to meet me. In her life, she ate right. Not exactly the same questions, but just in general about her day. She actually said goodnight to each other. Okay. Well, Rick, like I said, I'd still like keep a journal and just really monitor that. It's not something you really want to slack on keeping notes on, because that's a lot of mistakes that people you do is kind of blow it off and not think too much of it until it's actually a problem. Not saying it's going to become a problem, but I would definitely see if it ever makes you feel uncomfortable. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you very much. Can I help? Can I help your... you'd have to send me a message for that, because there's like a lot going on up here right now. If I can help somebody of yours. I'm not trying to be rude, but I'd love to help somebody of yours. But with like a bunch of people coming through my chat thing and me trying to do this and trying to look at YouTube, my brain's about to explode. It's 12:20 and I got so much accomplished so far. Okay. Let's see. Okay, that's a weird question. Does my boyfriend know I am psychic? Well, yes. To a point. Like, we don't really talk about it, I guess. It doesn't involve in my relationship at all. Or I try not to let it. Any other questions? I already answered that one. Yes, I do help people cross over. Whoa. I got 5 viewers. I think I'm about to call it a night. Copy on the journal. Thanks for taking the time to talk about it. No problem. I care about people, and I like to instruct them the proper way to take care of situations. So that's good. Also set up audio. Audio can help too. If you have like a tape recorder or something, those are pretty freakily accurate. I'm not sure who this lady is. She keeps asking me weird questions. Do I not like pagans? I never said I didn't like pagans. I never said I didn't like Wiccans. I mean, we're all people. I just don't get involved with it myself. It's just not my forte. It's not my thing. How do I sleep at night? I lay my head down on my pillow. No, it does make it difficult to kind of go to sleep at night. So I'm usually always in a state of tiredness. I already answered this, but I live in Ohio. I haven't yet, like, made my business thing to do this, even though I don't charge to do readings or anything. Yeah, I'm gonna plan on, like, making it a thing, I hope, just to help people. It's a long process because I gotta get a website and stuff. Okay, I think... Do you see the future, either cards, numerology, or quotes? The only thing I can see the future is precognition. I don't mess with cards or numerology. I have looked into numerology, but I didn't do anything with that. Like I said, I don't really dabble in anything that's unnatural. I have had daytime visions, which is like premonition, I suppose, of an event that recently occurred that I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want, like, the government knocking on my door or something. What made me want to become more vocal about my clairvoyancy? Well, why not? You know, I have the gift. I figured I can help people. Get my name out there a little bit to try to people to come to me so I can help guide them to the other side and help families if I can. What events have I predicted? I haven't predicted I'm not going to say much about my events, but I have had 2 experiences of precognition. And that's like visions in your dreams. And my first one was when I was in the body of somebody else and she was running and a man popped out and tried to grab her and stuck her into a van. I was able to remember the license plate number and what this guy looked like for some reason, and the next day I saw it on the news. I called the police and reported it because I'm from like a really small town and the police, you know, we all know each other, so they believed me. They ran the plate and it actually turned out to be the guy that they were looking for, which is really weird. And another one, which happened a couple weeks ago, was I was I was actually viewing this happening, but I couldn't do anything because it was a dream. I was standing in this little girl's room, and this guy tried climbing through the window and grabbing this little girl, and the little girl was petrified, and she was fighting, and she got away. But I looked on the news the next day, sure enough, something like that happened. This little girl almost got abducted out of her bedroom window, and the description and stuff accurately depicted what I saw, and I tried calling the police and reporting what I saw in my dream, but they laughed at me and they didn't take me seriously. So that is that. You meant guides? I don't know. I haven't really seen guides or anything like that. Yeah, I basically just see dead people. They show me images. Sometimes they can talk to me. Sometimes I can see them. I can sometimes see events that might happen, but that's kind of hard to determine if that's just a coincidence or not. So, but good questions, Nancy. Thank you. I'm probably going to be wrapping this up here in a couple minutes because I'm really tired and I have Easter tomorrow. I'll answer a couple more. And then I gotta go to bed. Okay, I think I answered them all. If you have any questions, you can send me a message. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys, and I'll be back on probably next week. I'll get a big panel of questions together and answer them to be a little bit more thorough. But thank you all, and I hope to see you again.